morning. This is rare for me. I haven't done this in a while, but there's something that the Lord had showed me this morning, and I want to share it because I really, I love when God opens up these revelations and He shows me things in the Bible that are relevant to what we go through in this life. So, in our ladies' Bible study, we call it Ladies' Bible Book Club. And our ladies meet once a month, and each month we'll pick a book in the Bible, we'll read it, and then we'll get together after that month and we'll discuss what we've learned in that book, and then have, questions written down that we may have towards each other. So this is going to be something I bring up in that ladies group because I really find this interesting, and I love revelations that God gives. But in the book of Genesis, in chapter 2, I was reading, and it starts in verse 7. I'm going to start there because this is where God had created Adam. He formed man. And it says, "And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And man became a living soul." So this is where the formation of man began. God created man because He wanted somebody to subdue this earth. He put man here to take care of this earth, to not just to keep it, to guard it, to protect it, to intend over it, but also to work it, to dress it, to serve it, to labor in this land. So, and we get to verse 17, it talks about the tree of life, and it says, "But of the tree of knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die." Now, this is where it gets interesting. This is where God opened my eyes. And this is what it says. Transgressions did not come from the tree or the fruit. So what it's saying is the defiance came by eating of the fruit, which means because God commanded them not to eat of it, and they transgressed, and they did anyway because Eve was tricked by the serpent. So God warned such disobedience would bring death. Now, dying is not a cessation of being, but separation. Now, we all know that death is the separation from God, okay? So this is where it gets interesting. Spiritual death is separation from God. Physical death is the separation of the spirit from the body. So when the transgressions took place and Adam and Eve had sinned, the spiritual death took place immediately. God put them out of the Garden of Eden because He separated Himself from them. This is the sin. Sin is what separates people from God, the spiritual aspect of it. Okay, so spiritual death came immediately at the fall. The process of the physical death also immediately began. Now, this is where I find it interesting. Okay, now this is where I want you to go back to verse 7 of chapter 2 in Genesis. "The Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul." In the day Adam ate from the tree, the surety of death became a defining reality. And what that means is, spiritually, him and Eve were already separated from God because they created that sin. Sin is what separates God from man. And unless you turn from those sins and bridge that gap that's needed, you're going to be separated for eternity from God. There has to be something that causes the creation to, you to return. That's where Acts 2:38 comes in. And the physical death is imminent because God is our breath of life. God is the reason we are here. So that's where I want to specify that when Adam and Eve had transgressed, the physical death of our body began to die slowly because Adam and Eve had transgressed. And the reason it died is because God is our breath of life. That's why and I've done me and my husband have done a lot of studies on fasting and praying, and we have a lot of scriptures and stuff to connect our body and God being our breath of life, and it's really deep, it's really good, and once you hear it, you'll understand. And in this, it just, God opened my eyes, because it showed me that spiritually we feed our bodies through prayer and fasting, because in order for us to get closer to God, we have to pray and fast. And that's where our spiritual body, our spirit comes in at. So when we don't feed our body the things that is necessary, prayer, fasting, studying the word, it causes a spiritual death, which is what I was talking about earlier, when man and God, and then you've got sin right in the middle of it. So because God is our breath of life, as it stated in Genesis 2 verse 7, when Adam and Eve had transgressed, the physical body began to die, because that breath of life in our body belongs to God. And I wanted you to know that connection, because whether you believe in God or not, God is the reason that you are here. And I want you to know that He loves you, and be blessed.